And at number 10, her origin. Chica's origin is much more explored in the second game, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. She appears as her earliest form, her first generation of an animatronic, which is known as Withered Chica. This Chica has fallen into severe disrepair, and replaced by a new iteration of Chica called Toy Chica. Now, Withered Chica would eventually be rebuilt after the events of the second game, which is the version of her that we're introduced to in the first Five Nights game. The more you know.
And at 9, Kickstarter. Kickstarter. It's a great website, hashtag not sponsored. It provides an outlet for creators to get their projects out there and get funded by people who like the idea. I've actually considered using it for several things in the past, but never actually done it. Unlike Scott Cawthon, who actually put Five Nights at Freddy's up on Kickstarter before starting production. The game with its popularity now would have crushed its $10,000 pledge goal, but in actuality, nobody knew about this game and nobody knew how good it would be. It never made a dime. I mean, it was taken off Kickstarter after 3 days, like Scott cancelled the Kickstarter with no funds raised, and at one point considered abandoning the game, so rough. We know how successful the original game was, so what would have changed if Scott had raised this money? Would the game have been better, worse, the same? It's unknown, and while at the time it may have seemed like a lost cause fighting for the life of his game dev career, Scott persevered and has probably a jacuzzi full of money thanks to this series. This is one hell of an inspirational story. It's like that image of someone digging underground with like a huge area full of diamonds like an inch away, but he's walking back because he gave up. Keep the grind going, stay inspired, do what you love even if you aren't making money from it, because one day you may get the shot you've always wanted, or maybe even never thought you could. And at 8, nose goes. We all know about clicking the nose on the Freddy's poster making a squeaking noise, and this doesn't change in each game, with the exception of Help Wanted since you can't really click on the posters, but the clown posters in the DLC squeak when you hit them with a dart. However, in the original game, clicking Freddy's little button nose can result in him jump scaring you. This doesn't happen unless Freddy is outside your door, since that's the closest he can get. If you don't close the door and decide to taunt Freddy by squeaking the nose of his poster, he doesn't need to wait until you bring up the monitor. That squeaking must just trigger him so bad that he would just kill you for it. Well, maybe, it's only a chance, but it's pretty interesting and something I didn't know since I always run out of power instead of risking my life like that. I'm not good at power management. And at 7, head goes. In the West Hall corner in FNAF 1 Camera 2B, you can see a poster of Freddy on one of the walls. While Bonnie can cover this poster up, it, like many other posters in that game and throughout the series, can switch. While the posters that change show the crying child and Golden Freddy, there was one rare screen that you can find that has Freddy taking his own head off. This could just be an Easter egg, but some people believe that this is the spirit of the child who was stuffed into him, showing how he wants to be released and moved on to the afterlife. Others think that it was Phone Guy since he dies fighting off the animatronics in the 4th night of the first game, but Freddy can and does remove his own head, similar to what we see Bonnie do in the trailer for the first game, removing his head to show his endoskeleton instead of a jump scare. See, this time I said his because my brain isn't fried. And at 6, pattern. Freddy, unlike most animatronics who can travel to any room on the respective side, has a set path that he follows every time. This being the show stage, dining area, restrooms, kitchen, East Hall corner, office. He is never in your blind spot, making him be able to scare you from the door next to your office, but also slightly easier to track, and once he's at your door you're pretty much screwed. However, Freddy will never move when the cameras are on, even if you aren't looking at him. If you're viewing a camera, he will not move. This can be used as a strategy if you know where the other animatronics are. This pattern can be used to your advantage as well as his movement, but it can still be used against you if you're not paying attention. Just don't click the nose. It's interesting how he has a pattern while the other animatronics don't. Perhaps he knows how to get to you, and that you're his main objective. And at number 5, stalking. Freddy doesn't move for the first few nights. When he becomes active, he makes a beeline for you and will kill you any chance he gets. He doesn't move if the camera is on because he's trying not to be a concern, and if you think about it, that's exactly what he should be doing. If he only moves when the cameras are off, it could cause you to run out of power because you're always looking for him. He hides in the shadows, so it takes you more time to notice him, and he is always looking right at the camera to know if it's on. This is why he waits. Sure, it makes sense in the game, making it harder as you go on, but it's also him learning. He's the leader of the gang and the smartest of them all. He sends Bonnie and Chica after you so that he can learn how you defend yourself, so he can ultimately strike you where it hurts. He's stalking you, learning about you, like any good villain does. He knows his enemy, like any good good villain does, he knows his enemy, and that makes him all the more frightening. And at 4 originally static. While now Freddy is known to come down the east hallway, making some station stops to your office, he wasn't originally intended to do so. He actually was intended to just stand at the show stage and let his minions come after you. He is the only animatronic in the game with 2 jump scares, because he was originally intended to only scare you if you ran out of power, but then Scott decided to let him come after you at night 3, perhaps because the game was too easy otherwise, or maybe Freddy just decided to start moving and Scott accepted it. The game would be totally different if Freddy was stationary. There wouldn't be some form of meta surrounding his movement, and the only time you'd really get to see him is if you ran out of power, which is weird because the game is called Five Nights at Freddy's, so if Freddy wasn't coming for you, it kind of ruins it. I mean, like, I know the establishment is Freddy's and that's why it's Five Nights at Freddy's, but like, come on. If Freddy didn't do anything, it'd be kind of lame. And at 3, instant kill. One of the most mysterious questions of all is the bite of 87. In the first Five Nights game, people thought that we could get some more clues or maybe hints to the series, or maybe even a secret ending. So in an effort to solve the most mysterious question of all, who really 100% caused the bite of 87, players for the custom Night 7 and Five Nights 1 had the original core 4 animatronics of Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy with the levels 1, 9, 8, and 7 to try to get a secret ending or perhaps a clue. However, Scott knew people would be assuming this would work, so in an effort to shut rumors down, he added that if you do this, you will get immediately jump scared by Golden Freddy, which while not providing a secret ending may give us some clues. Maybe it was Golden Freddy who caused the bite after all, hence why he is decommissioned in the first game, and that it would be the second incident since he caused the crying child to die in 1983. So I retract my previous statement that Mangle was the cause, because at this point I don't know. But nobody ever mentioned this to me in the comments, especially when claiming it was Golden Freddy or Freddy at all, so I didn't know about this until now, so don't yell at me. And at 2, his handprint. I've mentioned both the handprint and him taking his own head off from the poster earlier in this list, but the handprint on his face, while many assume it to be proof he caused the bite of 87 or that it was the phone guy or the kid who got stuffed, is in fact most likely his own hand. That handprint is pretty big, covering both his eye and more, which, since he's a 7-foot tall animatronic, makes that hand pretty large. And who would really need to put their hand on his face? Anyone who would be getting bit wouldn't be at that angle. Plus, there is another print on his chin, which is in the same place one of his hands is when he takes off his head in the poster. Hence why I mentioned both of these before this and why I'm bringing up his face 3 separate times on this list. Whose handprint do you think it is? Let me know in the comments, because I genuinely think it's Freddy's.
Number 1. Nightmares. Scott Cawthon considers Bonnie to be the most frightening animatronic in the game. Bonnie actually gave Scott nightmares, likely because Bonnie was also responsible for the jump scares Scott experienced during development, which we talked about earlier. People also believe this is why Bonnie appears in hallucinations in the game, that the hallucinations are sort of a nod to Scott's own nightmares that he had of Bonnie. Regardless, when it comes to Scott's opinion, Bonnie remains the most terrifying animatronic in the games for him. So if we're talking to Scott, he's gonna tell us that Bonnie the Bunny is actually the most terrifying animatronic. Number 10, William Afton. So, who is the purple guy, you may ask? There are a few theories surrounding this, but one is that he is the man known as William Afton. William Afton is the creator and operator of Afton Robotics Incorporated, which is pretty terrifying considering that is the company that supplied Fazbear Entertainment with their animatronics. Spooky? You bet. You get to visit Afton Robotics in the FNAF game's sister location.
And at number 9, all in the details. Let's take a look at a few aspects of Chica's character that made her so darn scary and so darn iconic. In the very first Five Nights at Freddy's, as the night progresses, she becomes more erratic, twitching violently, eyes blinking rapidly, and her soundbite will play regardless of whether or not you're focused on her or not. She gets quite sneaky too. If you fail to check your right blind spot and close the door when she's at the window, she can sneak into the office without being seen. And when she does, the buttons for the door and light won't function anymore. You can tell she's entered the office by listening for the sound of groans, which both her and Bonnie do. They'll jump at you as soon as you lower your monitor. And at number 8, Chica loves food. Like, no shit, right? I mean, it literally says, "Let's eat" on her bib, which is surrounded by little triangles that one could only assume are inspired by the fact that she was built for a franchise of pizza parlors. Anyway, based on the Freddy Fazbear theme song, Chica is a gluttonous but lovable chicken who has an adoration of food, especially pizza. Shocker there, friends. She's also a little pushy. Gotta get that za. In at number 7, that groan. You know the groans that we mentioned earlier, the sounds that Chica and Bonnie make when they've snuck into the office? Well, there's a theory about why those groans sound the way they do, or rather why the animatronics make them. It's speculated that the groan is actually phone guys, or that it belongs to one of the 5 kids from the missing children incident theory. On the flip side of this, which is probably the more rational theory, the groan could simply come from her voice box. Voice boxes are found in most singing animatronics, and it could be that this voice box is malfunctioning since the animatronics are over 20 years old and poorly maintained. Moving on to number 6, them teeth. Chica's got some chompers. She's got a second set of teeth in the back of her mouth, with most people assuming that those teeth are part of her endoskeleton. There is a theory though that those teeth actually belong to a human, with one popular theory debating that the teeth belong to phone guy. A lot of phone guy theories. That being said, every single one of the animatronics in the first game have endoskeleton teeth inside of their costumes, so. And at number 5, absence. Chica is in every Five Nights at Freddy's game with the exception of the 5th game, 2016's Sister Location. Now, despite the 5th title, Sister Location is chronologically the first installment in the series and actually is rather distinct compared to the other Freddy's titles. You can move between rooms and must carry out objectives, and a new cast of animatronics were added. Now, the reception for the title was a little mixed, although the game was praised for switching up the series status quo in terms of gameplay, keeping the player on edge. There is a slight nod to Chica in the game though. There's a mode in Custom Night called Cupcake Challenge, which is a nod to Chica's cupcake. Moving on to number 4, missing? Despite the absence in the last game, Chica may initially have been planned to be in it. In Ennard's first teaser found within the source code, Chica's name is mentioned as a client called Chica's Party World, no vowels, which was an abbreviation for Chica's Party World. But there is no reference to this party world in the game itself. Curious, what do you guys think it could have been? Moving on to number 3, Phantom Chica. Even though Chica appears in all of the rest of the games, it is worth noting that it is different forms of her that appear and pop up in those sequel titles. Now, for example, in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, she doesn't affect gameplay at all beyond being a spooky piece of the game's set. Now, she is an attraction prop at Fazbear's Fright, and in Cam 08 you can see her disembodied head. Instead, in the game, it's Phantom Chica who is basically Chica but doesn't have eyes and scares you and looks charred and her mouth is constantly open. She doesn't have much of a movement pattern either. There's also a little nod from her partner in crime in the 3rd game who actually appears as a minor hallucination, which brings us to our next number, talking about that partner in crime. Number 2, Chica's Cupcake. Let's talk about this little buck-toothed pink frosted buddy of hers, the cupcake. There is a cupcake that Chica holds on a tray when she is on stage. Like the other animatronics, it has black eyelids. Now, this cupcake disappears when Chica is off the stage, and there has never been any explanation for why. Creepily enough though, the same cupcake also can be spotted inside of the office in the first game on top of the monitors, which is, you know, probably just merch, but whatever. Other than that, it has no effect on the player aside from spooking them out. And last but not least, in at number 1, Help Wanted. There's some fun details about Chica in the Five Nights at Freddy's VR game Help Wanted. The parts and service section is perhaps one of the more interesting parts of the game, no pun intended there. Your objective is to repair one of the original animatronics, in which you're guided through various instructions to do so. Now, in order to repair Chica, you need to remove pizza slices from her body, open up her beak which reveals a cockroach infestation, and continue to spray her with chemispray in order to clean her up. Now, if you mess with the instructions, she'll jump scare you and presumably kill you. And also, according to the parts and service portion of the game, there have been customer complaints about Chica's acrid smell, meaning she's been rummaging through the kitchen again and probably some garbage for some munchies. Tough life.
And a 10 secret mission. While playing the game normally, you wouldn't really see any bigger picture. You fight enemies, an impervious rainbow, and Scott Cawthon himself, who makes jokes about having to satisfy his fanbase with games every other month. But if you stick around the first conversation for a bit, the conversation glitches and an 8-bit glitching psychic friend Fredbear appears and gives you a new mission. This results in you having to collect secret clocks, which ends up setting up the clues you find in FNAF 3's minigames. This secret mission is probably what the game was meant to be in the first place, and it entirely changes the meaning of the game as a whole in both FNAF lore and the timeline. And it probably makes it a better game if you knew about it beforehand. If you didn't know about it, well then you'll still hate it, but then I guess I just countered my whole point for that. So I'm just gonna go and go to sleep.
Number 9, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Afton is the young daughter of William Afton and the sister to Michael Afton. William created Circus Baby for her, and she is a minor character in the sister location game. She wanted to play with Circus Baby, but her father told her to stay away from the animatronic due to it not being deemed safe enough yet for his daughter. However, when her dad wasn't looking during a birthday party, she snuck off to play with Circus Baby and was lured away from the other children with ice cream that Circus Baby gave her. Circus Baby killed little Elizabeth with a claw that burst forth from her chest. Unfortunately, no one could hear Elizabeth's screams for help over the loud cheering and squeals of delight coming from the other children who were excited over the other animatronics. Ooh. Number 8. Hostile animatronics. Not only did Purple Man potentially make the animatronics if he truly is William Afton, but he was also responsible for messing with the animatronics facial recognition software at Freddy's. In FNAF 2, it is revealed that this was tampered with after William complained about the working conditions of the night shifts, and was moved to the daytime shift as a result. During this time, children went missing, and the animatronics programming was altered to make them act hostile towards employees of Freddy's. I think you see what could have happened next there. Number 7. Michael Afton. Michael Afton is William's son and Elizabeth's brother, who is also known by his nickname Eggs Benedict. In Sister Location, you play as Michael, who is revealed to be on a mission to find his sister and set her spirit free. However, Michael is tricked into entering the scooping room by Enard, who also has Elizabeth's consciousness within it. In the scooping room, you as Michael have your insides scooped out before Enard wears your skin like a suit, so that they may leave the facility and go out into the world. How lovely. It is speculated that Michael may also be the Purple Man instead of William, or maybe in addition to William? Could there be two of them? You decide. Number 6. Serial killer. The Purple Guy has been confirmed as the murderer of at least 5 missing children throughout the games. In the first FNAF game, you discover that he was responsible for luring at least 2 children to the back room, who mysteriously then vanished. Later on in the franchise, you discover via mini-games that he also murdered a child outside of the pizzeria, and that a total of 5 children taken to the back room were killed and stuffed into animatronic suits. Number 5. Springtrap. In FNAF 3, we discover that Springtrap, the game's main antagonist, contains the corpse of William Afton. While fleeing the vengeful spirits of the 5 children that he murdered, he finds himself cornered. Quickly, he thinks to hide himself in a Spring Bonnie suit, being careful to avoid injury. Initially. However, the suit's spring locks malfunction due to water damage and sudden movements that William makes, resulting in him being sliced apart while inside the suit, and crushed by its inner mechanisms. What a way to go. You can still see his remains through the tears in Springtrap's suit. Number 4. Scrap Trap. Scrap Trap is a far more frightening iteration of Springtrap. This version appears in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. The suit now appears to have even more tears and has a more withered looking appearance, missing a limb and with more tendons belonging to the corpse within it visible. Number 3. Rotting Away. Part of the reason why some think that Michael Afton could be the Purple Man is because of the color of his skin. The purple color is speculated to represent his skin rotting away following the scooping room incident in Sister Location, while Michael's consciousness lives on within. In mini-games within Ultimate Custom Night, we witness what happened to Enard and Michael after leaving the facility. We see his skin change from pale to tan to green to brown to almost like this blue and then deep purple. Number 2. Trapped in Hell. It's believed that in Custom Night, where you can customize which animatronics can come at you as you attempt to survive, you are playing as William Afton, who is now trapped in hell, with the never-ending nights that make up the individual games that you play representing William's eternal punishment for the murders that he was responsible for. Additionally, the Old Man Consequences Easter egg has been used to argue the likelihood of this claim. What do you think? Do you think that game is all about you playing as William Afton, you're trapped in hell? Let us know in the comments. Number 1. Father versus Son. After Michael Afton turns purple in the minigames we previously touched on, he starts to convulse and ends up vomiting out the parts of Enard. His empty skin collapses on the ground with nothing to hold it up, and he appears to be dead. However, we then see him miraculously awaken, alive. And if you beat Golden Freddy on very hard mode in Custom Night, you get to find out what happens next in his story. That is, after he left, now with Enard inside him. A cutscene reveals Michael talking to his father in a burned down Fazbear's Fright. Michael explains that he has freed his sister, but at great cost to himself. He should be dead, but finds himself somehow still alive. And he vows that he is coming to find his father. The cutscene finishes with Springtrap popping into the frame. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this list gave you a better understanding of Purple Man and just how tragic and terrifying his character really is, whichever one it may be. Number 10, Frequent Visitor. In the original FNAF, if you were ever successfully attacked and killed by an animatronic, it was likely Bonnie. I mean, probably wasn't Bonnie all the time, but trust me, Bonnie's a big one. Bonnie the Bunny is one of the most active characters in the original game. He really likes to come out and play and roam the pizzeria at night. So he is really the one that you need to keep an eye out for when it comes to those lights in the doors and your cameras, as you likely will see a lot of movement from Bonnie. In fact, you'll probably just see Bonnie like waiting to jump on you later in that game, pretty much the entire time. Bonnie pops up at your left door, so that's the one you want to keep an eye on for Bonnie the Bunny.
And the 9 secret game tags. The Five Nights series obviously wasn't really advertised. I saw no trailers playing before YouTube videos or any posters at game stores, but we still found it. And that's thanks to the tags that game devs give their games so that people can find them in places like itch.io or Steam. However, usually the games are tagged accurately. Pavlov, for example, is tagged FPS, VR, and shooting. And Doki Doki Literature Club is tagged dating sim, psychological horror, you know, the usual. FNAF, however, is tagged with more things than just the typical tags like horror. The original FNAF game is tagged with single player, robots, difficult, indie, dark, mouse only, lore rich, short, gore, kid friendly, dating sim, and comedy. And considering how these tags are a joke, comedy makes sense. Any parent who downloaded this game because of that tag and then ended up scarring their children with a robot chicken, I'm sure they're not happy about that. Kinda rude, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get your game out there, especially when it was your final attempt at being a game designer. I understand. And at 8, it's hated. FNAF World is probably the most controversial game of all of the FNAF games. Some of the FNAF fanbase feels as if it was a wonderful addition to the series and was a welcome change from the basic point-and-click survival horror experience you'd normally get, which is a reasonable argument. However, the issues that arose with this game are far greater than anyone expected. The issues the community had was honestly the exact same thing as why they thought it was good. The change in gameplay and story was something most people didn't appreciate. The fans were expecting something along the lines of what we had gotten in the past. But with the series evolving, the community didn't appreciate the effort it took to create an RPG experience like Scott had. Like, even if it was rushed and Scott was not proud of it, it was more likely that he just said these things to let you justify your reasoning for hating it. But as I will explore later in this list, I'm sure Scott meant for this to be the way the game was working, but you just didn't like it. So, like the box, he hid it. Forever. And at 7, brought to console. While we all know the FNAF games for being on PC, some of you may not know that he actually released them on mobile as well. And while this is also fairly common knowledge, I'm pretty sure you didn't know that Scott was actually talking to companies about releasing the games on consoles. I'm not sure how that would work. I guess the different buttons would do other things. But like, it works with the mouse and it makes sense with the mouse. However, Scott also said that while the mobile release was just a reformatting, the console version would be a full remake. This means that we could get potential lore clues or maybe just a remaking of the games to have a cohesive story, but we all know that Scott probably won't do that. I can't talk to whether these talks are still happening or not because all I know is that they happened, so if you do know, please sound off below and let me and everyone else know. We know Scott likes to add things in other versions of his games, like the additional helpy sections in the Foxy Ride and the Curse of Dreadbear Flat mode for Help Wanted, so who knows, it could be a thing. It could happen. And at 6, removed from Steam. We know the community and even Scott hated FNAF World. He said it was a rushed game and not up to the standards that Scott had set for himself and the series. So after just 5 months on Steam, Scott pulled it and asked Valve to refund everyone who had the game. He also said that he would release a free version on GameJolt, and that he would update it and that new updated version would always be free. And while that is incredibly nice, he's able to do that because he made a boatload from all of his other games. The hot tub that is the size of my bedroom that's full of money on Scott's mansion lot, I'm pretty sure it's still full even after releasing the $10 game for free and refunding everyone who had bought it originally. What do you think about Scott removing the game from Steam? Are you for it? Are you against it? Are you indifferent? Let me know below and be sure you tell me if you've actually played FNAF World. Halfway through at number 5, better than others. Sure, you may not enjoy FNAF World, but we have to admit it did way better than any of Scott's previous series games. What I mean by that is other games in different series. Considering how FNAF is the only series of his that took off, it's fairly evident that this is the case. Scott has been attempting to be a game designer for a while, and in reality, FNAF was going to be his final attempt to make it before giving up and trying something else. But FNAF blew up more than the Hindenburg. And it made Scott a household gaming name and gave YouTubers hours of content. The reason he made FNAF was due to a review on a previous game of his that commented on the robotic/animatronic-like statue of his other characters. So Scott took that and ran with it, creating the series we all know and love today. So please, while all we can do is be at home, if you have something that you are passionate about but you're doubting yourself, do it anyway. What do you have to lose? It's time to do whatever we can to both entertain ourselves and even surprise ourselves, because you'll never know until you try. And you may come out of this with an entirely different career path in mind, and that's both awesome and kind of scary, but I believe in you. We all believe in you. So, just do it! And at 4, link with Ultimate Custom Night. In one of his Ultimate Custom Night videos, MatPat from Game Theory spent the first half of this video showing us a link between Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF World. In FNAF World, you were able to break through the game code, as they call it, and visit Old Man Consequences in his pond. After talking to him, you need to drown yourself to get out, but at least it provides a secret ending. And when you arrive back in the main menu screen, you are given a trophy for visiting him. However, in Ultimate Custom Night, you are also able to visit the same location. All you gotta do is set Old Man Consequences to level 1 and play his minigame. Old Man Consequences tells us to leave the demon to his demons and rest our own soul, in reference to Golden Freddy and William Afton. But then, to get out, we need to drown ourselves again. But somehow, even without playing a second of FNAF World, if you do that in Ultimate Custom Night, you get the trophy for seeing Old Man Consequences in FNAF World, even with a fresh save. This could be Scott's way of showing us that FNAF World is still important. And it would make sense since there are lore implications with it now, but I still find it highly interesting. And at 387. Fans of the Five Nights series will always get triggered when you bring up any year from the 80s, because, well, while one bite was difficult enough to deal with, now we gotta deal with two, the bite of 83 and the bite of 87. However, before the bite of 83 was introduced, 87 was a pivotal date in FNAF canon, so it's no surprise that Scott Cawthon, master of lore mystery, the man who doth not trifle with coincidence, released the second FNAF game 87 days after the first. Yeah, you heard me right. The second FNAF game came out 87 days after the first. The release date between the first and second game was 87 days. If that's not attention to detail, I don't know what is. I've been giving this man crap for rushing the second game release, but he had it planned from the start. Maybe this is something we need to look into for more clues to the lore. Maybe the numbers will give us something we can use. Maybe a name, maybe a date, maybe the name of the next FNAF game. FNAF 58, Poop It's in Space! And at 2, Bonnie was first. While yes, Chica's child named Susie was the first to die and has seen everything, it's interesting to think who the first coded animatronic was. We think it would have been Freddy, since he was originally just stationary and would only jump scare you if you ran out of power, but actually, it was Bonnie. And to Scott, I think I know why. Scott considers Bonnie to be the scariest animatronic. While yes, Bonnie the Bunny is cute and honestly to me the least scary of the core 5, Scott went on record saying that he actually had nightmares of Bonnie after getting jump scared by him while playtesting the first game. Side note, sorry to anyone who has been offended by people calling Bonnie a rabbit or Chica a duck. On behalf of all of Top 10 Gaming, I apologize. I may mix up genders because they're robots, who cares, but I cannot excuse the intolerable behavior of mixing up animal species. Insert sarcasm sign here. Even if rabbits and bunnies are the same thing. If Scott considered Bonnie the scariest, it would make sense for him to code him into the game first for just more creep factor. It makes the most sense. It's only logical. It's also like how Rhyhorn was the first Pokemon because it was technically coded first, but also like Mew was the first Pokemon because every other Pokemon is a form of Mew. Finally, in number 1, it was always important. Now, I've been teasing this one the whole list. The thing is, the lore we see with the true story of FNAF World, the one where you get the clocks instead of the clues in FNAF 3, is canon. Games breaking into the real world in the FNAF universe is something we are seeing happen in the games right now with Help Wanted. Glitch Trap is a sentient code that is now trying to escape the game or relive its previous murders. Glitch Trap is literally what was going on in FNAF World. We even see a purple guy sprite in FNAF World and he just says, "I'm just a game sprite, no need to worry about me." But what if that purple man is the Glitch Trap who is now breaking out of the game and is no longer just like a game sprite? The lore of FNAF World was always important, hence why it was available for free on GameJolt instead of just being taken off Steam and everywhere altogether. Boom! Truth bombs. In a 10, handprint. It's fairly well known that Freddy's character model has a handprint on his face and chin. This is thought to be the hand of a victim of his, potentially the victim of the bite of 87, but also maybe even Afton's when he stuffed one of the missing children from the missing children's incident in the suit. But there is another image from the game that can actually debunk this theory and may give you a new view on that handprint. And it'll also also make you question everything about the series. The handprint could also be the handprint of who we play as in Help Wanted. Now I keep going back to this game, but in one of the endings to the game where we follow Glitch Trap in the Pizza Party minigame, you get put on stage holding a microphone, you being Freddy. You get stuffed into the animatronic suit with the other two standing beside you. So maybe it's your handprint, and we end up right back where we started the series. Maybe that's where Jeremy is, the playtester before you. Maybe he is next to you. I mean, one of the names of the original 5 who got stuffed is Jeremy, so maybe Afton's consciousness inside the game is reliving his past killings. Sorry, didn't mean for this to turn into a theory, but again, I have a point that can shut the whole it's a victim's handprint thing down later on, so stick around.
Number 9. Death Coin. In Ultimate Custom Night, the Death Coin becomes a mechanic that you can use if you purchase it using Faz coins. Bonnie the Bunny is one of the animatronics you can actually use it on, so if you're really afraid of Bonnie, or if they are your least favorite animatronic, though I don't know why you put them in your custom game, or if you just don't want to have to worry about Bonnie, this might be a good idea for you. The Death Coin can only be purchased and used once per night and allows you to basically ignore or delete a character for that night. It can't be used on all of the animatronics, but it can be used on Bonnie, if you so choose. Number 8. Bonnie and Foxy. In the trailer for the original game, Bonnie appears to be the animatronic who charges down the hallway at you, and is also shown removing his face. While in the game, it is Foxy who is known for running and using this method to charge you and attack. Right off the bat, this connection between the two would later lead to some seeming competition in the animatronics' relationship with one another, which is hinted at later in the franchise, and which we'll talk about further on in this list. Some have speculated that Bonnie running in the trailer while Foxy was the one running in the game has to do with either the fact that Scott had not yet designed Foxy, changed his mind about Bonnie's character in the game and his approach, or simply wanted Foxy to be a surprise. As for Bonnie removing his face, we wouldn't see anything like this with Bonnie until the second game. Number 7. Moaning. On night 4 of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, you might notice that when Bonnie pops up, he begins to moan. You can hear a series of moans when you see Bonnie on camera, just adding to the creepiness of his character. It almost makes it sound like someone is trapped in the suit. It could be a reference to the spirits who are actually trapped within the animatronics, or it could just be the suit glitching when it comes to the in-story reason for why we hear this moaning. In regards to gameplay though, it just seems to be part of making the game feel more scary the further along you get, getting you more and more on. Ugh, those camera glitches, they get me. I like no thank you. Stop glitching, camera, why you like that? Also, why do I have limited power? What is this? Number 6. Freaky eyes. When it comes to Bonnie, a lot of people have noticed that in his withered form, the light of his pupils actually change. It could have to do with a change in the amount of light that shines on withered Bonnie, or it could have to do with a change in his mood. But his eyes switch between being bright white or bright red. Either way, withered Bonnie is terrifying and is likely still going to try and come for you, no matter what the color of his eyes. Number 5. First animatronic. Bonnie is said to be the first animatronic that was designed by Scott Cawthon. Apparently, in an interview, Scott shared that during the early stages of game development, Bonnie's face actually popped up and caught him off guard, as it appeared in a spot where it wasn't supposed to be. Being unexpected, Bonnie's face gave Scott a big jump scare of his own, and that was the moment that Scott knew with FNAF he had something really interesting. That moment itself likely inspired a lot of the pop-ups that you experienced during the gameplay. Number 4. Aggressive. In Ultimate Custom Night, Bonnie is also in Pirate Cove and is not happy about having to share the stage with Foxy the Pirate. Another nod to those two having a potential close and competitive relationship. As a result of being forced to share Pirate Cove, Bonnie becomes a lot more aggressive in the game. And whereas you may be used to having to frequently check on Foxy, if Bonnie is actually the one in Pirate Cove, you don't want to catch him on camera. Whereas Foxy wants your attention, if you catch Bonnie on camera, it will make Bonnie come towards you. So the opposite of what you're used to dealing with when it comes to Foxy in Pirate Cove. Number 3. Bonnie plushie. I don't know if it's so much shocking as it is interesting. In FNAF 2, the Bonnie plushie is an item you can get as a reward when you complete the Custom Nights Double Trouble mode. This plushie actually became so popular that it was also turned into a toy. In fact, there is a whole line of FNAF toys. Some of them adorable and some of them are more sinister looking. Some people even handcraft and sell withered Bonnie plushies as well. Ugh. So, if you're a fan of Bonnie, there's a good chance you can find plushies for him in all of his forms. Gotta catch 'em all. Number 2, Mr. Munch. Many have drawn similarities between another lovable real-life pizzeria character, real life, and Bonnie the Bunny. That character is Mr. Munch. Mr. Munch and Bonnie both have a similar shaped body and face. While Mr. Munch is not a bunny, he is purple and has similar eyes to Bonnie, except that Bonnie's eyes are red or pink. In FNAF 2, people also noticed that Bonnie's teeth appeared to be more pointed, similar to the shape of those of Mr. Munch. Many have likened Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria to that of Chuck E. Cheese's, which also is known for its animatronic characters, as well as comparing Freddy Fazbear to the lead animatronic in the band Rockafire Explosion, who was also an anthropomorphic animatronic bear, like Freddy. Number 1, Nightmares. Scott Cawthon.
Finally, and number 1, Jingle. When you do run out of power because you don't have any power conservation skills, you get taunted by the glowing face of Fredbear before the room goes pitch black and he jump scares you. Unless you're lucky as hell, which I was during our Help Wanted video. Oh no. Oh, crapula. Okay. Oh no. God. Oh god. Oh my god! Holy shit. However, if you pay attention to the song playing before the scare, it may sound familiar. If you're a fan of classical music, then you may know the song March of the Toreadors.